repression has no place in Buddhist practice. So you have to be careful not to have aversion towards any mental state that arises. So we try to, you don't have to seek out the roots of every single possible anxiety, stress, trauma. Yeah. There'll be plenty of opportunity for them to arise just in daily life. So once they arise, then that's the time to deal with them. Yeah. One of the great benefits of anapanasati is that it works below the surface. You don't necessarily see what's going on. And I think a certain portion of people's traumas originate from a nonverbal stage of development, maybe early childhood. And so using thought constructions would not be, not able to reach deep enough, because it's like they were created on a deeper level. And so the only way to really access it is through a similarly nonverbal way. Yeah. Now, anapanasati is certainly it will reach very deep. And you don't have to necessarily see everything that's going on underneath the surface. Well, we won't. We won't be necessarily conscious of everything that's going. A lot of healing can take place even without understanding, exactly what's going on. Right? If you do anapanasati long enough, it feels like, there's transformation happening, or there's work going on, or there's issues being dealt with, but it's not always clear exactly what it is. And even with psychoanalysis, it may not have the ability to go back to nonverbal stages. Maybe it will. And of course, there's certainly a big area of overlap between Dhamma practice and more of the analytical side of psychology. Generally in Buddhism, you try to, if you have an obstacle to the mind being in balance, then you start with the easiest fix first. Simply being aware of it, accepting it. And if mindfulness is strong enough and the obstacle is not overly stubborn or deep, then that will be enough. But there are some habits of mind, some traumas, attachments in some ways that are just very, very, very deep. And it does work to watch them, be patient, try not to react, but sometimes they just take over our mind. Even if you have enough mindfulness where you can be objective, let's say if anxiety arises, but you can also just watch it. It doesn't go away, right? But at least you can just say, yeah, that's anxiety, that's unpleasant. That's anxiety, that's unpleasant. Or anything in daily life, any mental state, right? You say, yeah, I recognize that. I see it. It's unpleasant. It's not going away by itself, but at least we're not feeding it. Yeah. It's like, okay, you develop a lot of patience that way. And sometimes it just takes doing that a long time for the karmic effects. We're just being aware of the results, the karmic results. And it just takes a while for that to wear off. But then there are some obstacles that just take our mind over. And we can't be objective. As soon as it comes up, it's just, we're just lost in thought or lost in a powerful emotion. So what do you do then? You can't even be objective. So then sometimes you just have to say, okay, I need a bit of a less subtle tool. Yeah. And say, okay, well, I mean, there's many, many ways to approach something like that. But one of the ways is you just start to analyze. You say, okay, well, what is this emotion I'm experiencing? What is its cause? Where does it come from? Right? And you have a bit of a conversation with yourself. So let's say, okay, experience this emotion. Why does this emotion come up? Okay, it's because of that person or this situation. And you say, okay, well, okay, but at least in the back of our mind, and kind of we know that, ultimately the root, that's not the root of it. So, but it feels like, oh, it's because of this person or this situation. And we think, okay, well, why is that a problem? Well, because they should do this, or oh, okay. So why is that a problem? It's because I want this and they're not doing it. And I say, okay, now we're getting closer to the root. I want something and I'm not getting it. Yeah, okay. What happens if I let go of what okay, I think I've heard of that. Desire and craving leads to suffering. So then we're getting closer to the root, which is basically we want something that we're not getting. What is it exactly? Often it's clouded in delusion, and that prevents us from seeing it. And in whatever way we can, we try to get clarity around it. And this kind of internal dialogue is very much part of our toolbox. Just trying to get to the root of a problem. Say, okay, what is it exactly? What is it exactly? And keep tracing it back. Say, yes, this seems to be the problem. Yes, but why? Why is that an issue? Ultimately, it always comes down to, we want something that we're not getting. We want other people to agree with us, or we want other people to respect us, or we want, what is it that we want? Right? Also, and then we start to get some clarity around how to solve it, which is not based on changing anybody else. It's not based on changing the external world. External things might change, but first and foremost, the problem or the obstacle can be solved by simply being clear that it's our own craving or desire for something that we're not getting, which is the issue. So then, okay, what happens? Is it possible for me to let go of that? And then it's like, no, I can't let go of it. Yes. Right? And then at least we're dealing with the problem. We see it, we have some clarity around, okay, this is the root. It's not like it's going to just suddenly disappear, but at least we know what we're dealing with. And then that helps a lot. That's a big first step. Well, there are many different levels of practice. It's not only meditation. Even in meditation, sometimes maybe many hours of meditation that are spent being completely caught up in stories and emotions associated with defilements that we just don't have the power to see objectively. Right? So it's a gradual process, but even if that happens 40 minutes out of a 45-minute sit, but there's 5 minutes of a bit of, at least, there's something there. You have to start somewhere. You get a little bit of objectivity to see what's going on. At least by the end of a meditation period, you can think, wow, my mind's really out of control. Okay, well that's already a lot more progress than most people. Most people wouldn't even don't even consider that. So, there's a certain amount of just being patient and letting these things come up, and we do our best. Gradually, our mindfulness gets stronger. And we don't only practice while we're doing sitting and walking meditation, but throughout the whole day. So then, every time we do anything throughout the day, speaking, interacting with other people, doing things alone, then it's an opportunity for developing strength of mindfulness, continuity of mindfulness, and gradually our mindfulness gets stronger, and then kind of get back down to the meditation cushion, and we've got a little bit more strength. Yeah, we don't just get beat up by our emotions. Gradually, it's an even fight. Or gradually you're able to achieve a bit more objectivity, and then that starts a positive spiral. Also, it very much is the case that if you develop opposite or wholesome states of mind, that will overcome many of the it will just create new habits of mind. Yeah, right. It's only if we have an attitude or reaction of subtle aversion towards mental states, or sometimes extreme aversion. If there's something that we don't want to experience, then we try to push it out of our consciousness. Now, certainly, Dhamma can be used unskillfully, right? Of course. You still have to use all these tools in the right way. It's like a hammer is very useful, but you don't want to use it to hit yourself over the head with, right? It's a useful tool for in specific ways, right? So you have to be careful. Am I using Dhamma to try to push away certain mental states out of repression? Like, I don't want to experience this, and then you push it away, and then you can justify it. Say, oh, I'm practicing Dhamma, right? So yeah, that would be something that you have to be aware of, right? That's why Ajahn Chah wasn't so concerned about what meditation people use, within a normal spectrum, but he was very concerned about how people used it and having the right attitude. So this would be an example of that, right? So it takes a lot of honesty and sincerity, because it certainly is possible to feel like practicing in a holy way, or even if you're sincere, but still there's some aspect of, I don't want to, I'm running away from something, right? So it's always possible, if that is the attitude, an underlying attitude, am I running away from something and trying to cover it up with a veneer? So certainly that is not what we are aiming for. But if you're practicing correctly, right? If you're not acting out of aversion, then it does work that if you are developing wholesome states of mind, then the unwholesome states of mind just have less and less power, and they have less and less room in your consciousness, and they gradually lose their dominance, until finally insight can uproot them completely, right? So like if you take an emotion like anger, for example. So if there are many ways of dealing with anger. Simply being aware of it without analyzing anything. You're just being aware of it, accepting it, being patient with it, and then it will gradually, it doesn't continue forever. It will disappear if you do that objectively. Other times, maybe you have to analyze, where is this anger coming from? What am I holding on to? Anger only arises because I'm not getting something that I want, and then I react with anger. Okay, so that's the analytical side. But you can also validly deal with the anger just by developing loving kindness and compassion. You just develop an opposite quality that just becomes strong. And then in daily life situations, when that particular anger arising from a particular irritation might arise. It's just that we've developed a very strong habit of loving kindness and compassion towards other people and ourselves, and it just, is stronger than the anger. So there's a whole variety of ways to practice the Dhamma, and if we can become skilled in a wide range of these tools, then it helps us to maintain a real balance in practice.